Yeah, I forgot to do the thumbnails. Yeah, the thumbnail poses. And I was saying that's the most awkward part is me having to be like, hello and welcome back to another episode of Too Long Didn't Watch. All right, we have a lot to talk about today, so I'm going to try to not ramble, even though it feels like nowadays the concepts and things I want to say in my brain are like balloons floating all around and I have to run around and try and grab them. So anyhow, I also have actual liquid. Do you hear that? Actual liquid in my mug today, so it's not just a decorative piece. I'll try not to do too much ASMR for you guys. So we have an actual main topic to talk about today. We're gonna jump right in, get started with that. Maine is having its little voting thing in November, right? And so you're seeing these signs everywhere that say yes on one, no on one, no on two, yeah, blah, 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 all this stuff. But what are the actual questions? What do they mean? What do they actually plan on doing and implementing? And really, what should we probably be leaning to as Christians to vote for? So I'm going to read them for you. Next time we haven't been able to set it up yet, but we should be able to next time. Have the computer there so I can read right off of the computer like a fancy person. It's not set up yet. As you can tell, we're kind of still in adding things right now to the set. So I'm gonna read it off my phone. Forgive me. I know it's not very professional. So question 1, do you want to change Maine election laws to eliminate 2 days of absentee voting, prohibit requests for absentee ballots by phone or family members, end ongoing absentee voter status for seniors and people with disabilities, ban prepaid postage on absentee ballot return envelopes, limit the number of drop boxes, require voters to show certain photo ID before voting, and make other changes to our elections? I'm going to go over question 2 in a minute, but first let's get this out of the way. The wording is not really the best. And so you have a lot of people. So honestly, on the signs you see, you'll see vote yes on one. We want to protect voter ID. And that's really one of the bigger things that people are talking about with that is voter ID. And honestly, on the face of it, for me, I find it kind of crazy that we don't have voter ID. It would make the most sense. You need your ID for many other things. You need your ID to travel, and you need your ID to drive and to do all of these different things and buy certain things. And so I don't know why we wouldn't use our ID to vote in elections that determine the outcome of our country. But the thing is that they're throwing multiple things in there. This isn't just, should we have voter ID, yes or no? They have a lot of different things, including changes to absentee ballots and things like that in absentee voting. And so the problem a lot of people have when they're saying vote no on one is they are worried about pretty much an end to absentee voting. So is that what they're actually trying to do? No, that's not what they're trying to do. Because the wording kind of makes it sound like they want to get rid of it, right? Because it says, do you want to eliminate 2 days of absentee voting, prohibit requests for absentee ballots by phone or family members, end ongoing absentee voter status for seniors and people with disabilities, ban prepaid postage on absentee ballot return envelopes, limit the number of drop boxes. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of words. Too bad I'm not reading them, except I just did. So that's the problem, is a lot of people are worried about it. But really what it seems to be is that they mainly want to tie up the loose ends of absentee voting. Because I also don't know if you're aware, they found in a town in Maine, someone had an Amazon package sent to them, and it literally had, what was it, I think 250 or some crazy number of that, of ballots, like absentee ballots. How is that happening? And also then you hear the Democrats in Maine going, wait, we can't get rid of absentee, we can't do that to absentee voting. We can't, because really what they're doing is they're restricting it. They're making it so that way you have to, every single time you want to vote, pretty much, or essentially yearly, you have to tell them, hey, I'm going to be doing absentee voting this year, and follow those things. And so a lot of seniors and people with disabilities. So when it says end ongoing absentee voter status, what it really means is ongoing. It doesn't mean you could, which means right now pretty much you can do it once and then that's it. And then any year you can come back and do that. But the problem is there's you're kind of leaving it pretty open-ended, and you're leaving a lot of room for possible voter fraud to happen. Because what happens if that person dies or leaves or something changes, right? And you just mail them the ballot anyway. This way you have to be intentional about your absentee voting. It can't just be this easy to do flippant thing, because again, why is it so easy? Why is it so easy to vote? And I know how that sounds, but when you don't add certain restrictions to things, then you're allowing for more fraud and criminality. Like, let's not act as though voter fraud doesn't happen. It does happen. Now, you can hear from both sides. Each side only ever seems to complain about fraud whenever they lose, but But seriously, we need to make sure that we're being mindful about this and really checking the wording of these questions, because people are going to take something from it and then run with that one little argument when it makes no sense, and that's not actually what they're saying. So, and also apparently Democratic like people like in our like Maine government are like, but we're going to lose 13,000 voters if this passes. And it's like, why would you lose 13,000 voters? Where are you getting that number? 2, why is the number so high? And 3, again, where are you getting that number? And why would you lose that many voters? That's kind of weird. That's suspicious. That's weird. That's kind of strange. So anyway, that's question 1. If you ask me, I'm voting yes on it. I think voter ID is good. I think making it a little harder to vote, so you have to actually be mindful about voting, and it's not just this easy flippant thing anyone can do ridiculously easily. I think that's a good thing. So you wouldn't want to make the driver's test easy and more accessible for people. I mean, holy moly, you can almost argue that too many people have their license nowadays with half the driving you see. Anywho, so question 2. Do you want to allow courts to temporarily prohibit a person from having dangerous weapons if law enforcement, family, or household members show that the person poses a significant danger of causing physical injury to themselves or others? This is called a red flag law. And again, it pretty much is on the face. It says what it wants to say. So let's say that you believe someone is a danger to themselves or others. Maybe they've said threatening things about themselves, like they want to possibly commit or something like that, or commit a crime. You can let law enforcement know, and then they would go take that person's firearms. So, and you see a lot. You'll see the 2 signs right next to each other. Vote yes on 1 and vote no on 2. You would go, well, why would you vote no on 2? Because isn't that kind of a good thing? Like we have a mental health crisis in our country, and the last thing we need is mentally unwell people having access to guns and firearms. But again, this is one of those where I personally would ask for more clarification, because how are you making sure that the vindictive ex isn't going to go, yeah, he was totally threatening me with a gun and everything, and I'm just really worried about my and my family's safety, so they can just go and take it. What are the checks and balances to that? Are there any checks and balances to it? Because the wording of the question is pretty vague. So how are we supposed, so again, and what does it mean by temporarily? How long is temporarily? What does that mean? Is that something that the judges can decide on a whim, how long their guns are going to be taken away? What are the hoops that person would have to jump through to get them back? And again, how would they properly investigate and be able to figure out whether or not the person truly is? So I think that's why a lot of people are voting no on it, is because it's kind of vaguely worded. It leaves a lot of open-ended questions where it could be, again, just like question 1, easily abused. So my personal thing would probably be vote no. Again, this is for me. You vote however you want to vote. That's between you and God. But for me personally, I need more clarification and more wording to it. What are they actually trying to say with it? What are the specifics to the question? Again, how are we deciding whether or not they're actually being taken away, that the person who's claiming that is legitimate? Is there evidence? Is there an investigation that happens? How long do they decide to temporarily withhold something? Because temporarily could be a couple days, or it could be a few years. We don't really know. So again, I'm curious to figure that out. But for the time being, I think I'm probably going to end up voting no. So that's what's going on in Maine. Again, make sure to go out and vote. Voting is important, and it's really easy to get lazy about the ones that aren't the presidential election. I tend to get lazy about it, but I think that's something we all should challenge ourselves to do, especially as conservative Christians and just as conservatives in general, because it is us being lazy that has caused all the liberal bullcrap that we hate to see in our government. So we need to be making sure that we're stepping up and we are doing our part in our society to try and make it better. So we are moving on now into the American sphere. And this one is really kind of going to be focused mainly on the outer ripple effects of what happened since Charlie Kirk. And we talked a bit about some of the ripple effects that happened in the initial week or two following Charlie Kirk's assassination in early September. We're going to talk about the further ripples now and kind of the things that I know happened a little bit ago, but I still want to talk about because it's interesting. I don't know if that's the right word to say. Interesting, annoying, a lot, just kind of a lot. The kind of thing where you have to set your phone down and then stare at a wall quietly for a while to process the information you just took in. So we're going to jump right into it. So a couple different things happened. Number one, Pam Bondi won't shut up. If there's anything that has made me misogynistic, it is her right now and her response to the whole Charlie Kirk situation, because it was a litany of things. First, she was talking about hate speech laws and doing hate speech laws and things like that. And it's like, okay, well, when you say hate speech, what do you mean by that? Because Charlie didn't support hate speech. No conservative really wants hate speech laws. It's kind of stupid. Incitement of violence is not hate speech. It's incitement of violence, and that's already a crime. So we don't really need a whole new law for that. We kind of just need those people to be held accountable to the law. So that just was all really annoying because it seemed like she just didn't get it. And then she seemed to further not get it when, okay. So there was that whole thing where a ton of people right after Charlie Kirk got assassinated. They were online being maladjusted, demon-oppressed weirdos. I'm gonna say it like that, and I think I'm gonna stand on that. And we're celebrating his death and whatnot and saying, oh, he deserved it. Some people even saying that his wife and his children should be next. Like, it's psychotic behavior. Again, from the party of love and empathy. Anyway, so, and a lot of them were getting fired. And one of them got fired from Office Depot because a video surfaced and came out of these people who were trying to print signs for, I guess, a Charlie Kirk memorial or vigil, and the employee refused to. And so the employee got fired, which the company, being a private company, has every right to do. And honestly, I'm glad that they did, personally speaking. And then Pam Bondi talked about possibly looking to indict Office Depot. And it's like, I'm sorry. Have you not, do you not know what conservatives believe in? Are you like a psyop or something? I'm confused because we just got done with a major long-term lawsuit that a baker just won. Do you remember years ago in like the mid 2010s, I believe, where a guy got sued by a gay couple because he refused to make a cake for them? And so they took him to court over it. And he finally just won that because he has the right to say, I'm willing to serve you if you walk into my store and you just want to buy something off the shelf, but I'm not going to make and decorate a cake for you that goes against my values. You have the right to refuse service to anyone for any reason. You have the right to refuse service as a private company. Office Depot technically has the legal right to refuse service to someone. If they don't want to print the Charlie Kirk signs, they do not have a legal obligation to print the Charlie Kirk signs. And I think that's a good thing. Not that they didn't print the signs. I can personally disagree with their decision, but we should not be legally mandating that they have to serve people they disagree with because we just won a lawsuit. Like, it just finally got resolved. So the fact that she was talking about that, even for a millisecond, was just mind-boggling. Of Pam, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? What do you mean by that? That makes no sense. That's not anything any conservative wants. So again, it just seems like she does not understand. This was not a situation where, honestly, not every single thing that happens necessarily means we need to have a bajillion different laws made and crackdowns done. And if any are to be done, they should be done mindfully. Mindfully, not made immediately based off of emotion and your feelings. Him being assassinated was horrible. No one's disagreeing with that. Well, there are people disagreeing with that. But his assassination was horrible. And someone refusing to print signs for a memorial or vigil is horrible. But Office Depot has the right to do that. And also people have the right to say that they're glad Charlie Kirk died. Even if I think that's disgusting, they have the right to say that. Just like their company has the right to fire them for saying heinous, evil things. So again, this is where I'm worried, because we as conservatives, I don't think have been this united in a long time. I think our base hasn't been this strong in a very long time. And I'm really, really worried we're going to mess it up. And I'm really worried we're going to start sliding into what the left is doing and what liberals are doing and what the Democratic Party is doing. And that's how they lost. So we need to make sure we're not becoming the new Democratic Party. So what also happened? Jimmy Kimmel. You guys. It was so hard. He had his show taken away for a whole 3 days, you guys. This is so terrible. So sad. It's just, free speech, man. And we're all Jimmy Kimmel, right? He's I'm sure he was in his mansion in LA looking out over the acres and acres of other rich people land in their mansions and was dabbing his eye with his silk handkerchief that gets dry cleaned for him weekly, and was just so upset over what happened to him because he wasn't allowed to say something that was a total and complete fabrication. So sad. And he was taken off air for a whole 3 days. How could he ever manage? I don't think his bank account will ever recover. He might go from a multimillionaire to just a slightly less multimillionaire, guys. And his ratings were so good anyway, right? Right? Yeah, so anyway, Jimmy Kimmel said something completely unhinged and crazy. He tried to say that the shooter was MAGA Republican, which is stupid. It's just, I'm not even going to be like, I can't even be offended by it really, or be like, how dare you say that? Because it's just dumb. Just dumb. We can laugh at that. What he said was stupid and wrong. And so they took him off the air for a bit, and then they backtracked. Did it possibly have something to do with the fact that someone shot into one of their buildings? Who's to say? But we just have to remember, guys, the right needs to turn the temperature down. The right needs to turn the temperature down. You know what I mean? Because it's the right who's committing all the acts of violence. Clearly. The fact that they couldn't handle their guy getting taken off air for 3 days before shooting into a building. But the right really needs to turn the temperature down, you guys. This is getting crazy. It's our fault that this is all happening because we're saying things that they don't like. And because speech is violence, that means that they can commit violence back. It's really self-defense. And it makes perfect logical sense when you have no logic or sense. So I don't want to dwell on that one too long. I think the whole situation was kind of stupid because they backtracked immediately. Like the company and it had like a really big response to it and took him off the air and everything. And we're saying they were going to do all this stuff and then they didn't. And they just put him back on the air and he did what he does. Because if you don't know, Jimmy Kimmel's a crier. So he was crying that he never meant to. I'm not saying I think to say that he wasn't celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, but he was spreading obvious misinformation about it. Let's not act as though he cares about the situation. And let's not act as though anyone in Hollywood cares about the situation either. Because they were silent when a political activist got assassinated publicly. And then when Jimmy Kimmel was off the air, they were like, we're all Jimmy Kimmel. We stand with Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah, you are all Jimmy Kimmel. Because you have no clue what you're talking about. You have a whole lot to say when it's really a whole lot of nothing. And you act as though you can relate to the American people at all, which is a joke. And you're up there crying in your mansions about how sorry and how bad everything is. Every single one of you endorsed Kamala, and she lost horrifically. That should tell you something, right? Something. So, anywho. And then obviously Charlie Kirk's memorial happened. I don't think it seemed to be beautiful, emotional. So many different people were there. A ridiculous amount of the government was there. They had to have a designated survivor who didn't come because they had so many, literally the highest seats in government in America came to it. And it just was, I don't think I've ever seen a public event like that where the gospel got preached so much and so strongly. And I think that's just an amazing thing to see. Like, truly, I think it just seeing that many people there and just her publicly forgiving him, which I would hope that I would react how she did, but I don't. I mean, what, like, that's an insane amount of strength to have, to do that, even privately, even just privately, like within your, like, to yourself, forgiving him, let alone doing it in front of so many people, which I think makes a very powerful statement. And again, I could talk about the maladjusted weirdos online who are attacking Erica and acting as though she isn't actively grieving the sudden loss of her husband, but who cares? They're dumb. They're online maladjusted weirdos who need to go get off Twitter and touch grass, because Twitter makes you mentally ill. So, also, I want to clarify here. I do still call it Twitter. Sometimes you hear me call it X, but it's still Twitter to me in my brain. So, sorry, not sorry. It was called Twitter for too long for me to not call it Twitter. So, and really the Twitter mentality has not changed. The name has, but the mentality has not. So now, and I also just want to talk about real quick, I don't want to touch on it too long because other people have talked about it and they've done a very good job at talking about it. But I think all of this just goes to show, from the silence coming from big people in Hollywood, from the people online celebrating his death, to I've seen a couple different videos online of people calling for the death of his wife and his children. There was even a woman recently who was talking about, like, ICE agents have family members, you know, don't forget, they have children. Like, literally calling for violence and the murder of men, women, children who they disagree with. And I mean, children I don't even count children as having political opinions because they're children. So the idea that I want to, or not really the idea, but the fact I want to get across is that I might have made before and I want to make again. The left wants us dead. They hate us. They hate everything we stand for. If we were also publicly murdered, they would celebrate our death and dance in the streets, just like they did for Charlie Kirk. And he was a more moderate person too. So, and we are to love our enemies, pray for those who persecute us. We are not to meet violence with violence. This is a time to be strengthening our faith, making sure we are doctrinally sound, leaning onto God and his strength in this time, and remembering that we will be hated and we will be persecuted. And in America, it looks different because we aren't dealing with the same level of persecution, obviously, in other countries where it's outlawed and banned and Christians get murdered. But they hate us, and they'll celebrate your death. They will laugh at your family. They will mock the people grieving you. And they will make funny little TikToks about how pleased they are that you died. And I 100% agree with Matt Walsh in the sense of, I don't think this is a time to unite with the other side, because they don't want to unite with us. You need a common thread. You need a through line to unite with people. And we have nothing to unite on if they want us dead. So we need to be making sure that we keep that in mind. And that's why that's also why you see a ridiculous amount of people on the left and who are liberal who are going, what is happening? Why are we celebrating this guy's death? That's awful. So I think it's a clarifying moment for a lot of people, because they're seeing their party for what it really is. The party of so-called love and empathy couldn't care less about love and empathy. It's all transactional to them. They don't have true friends. They don't have true family. They don't, it's not even like a real version of love. It's transactional. It's fully based on, do you agree with every little thing that I believe and agree on? And will you stand with me regardless, without facts, without any facts, just based on emotion? And if not, they will celebrate your death. So on that note, on that really happy note, there is something I want to talk about that kind of goes in both spheres, but in order for me to talk about it, I'm going to slide into the Christian sphere, and we're going to talk about the rapture, because I have terrible news, guys. Jesus has not come yet. I know. I've never wondered more. I've never been more in my life like, you can come, you can take us now. It's really fine. It's really, really okay. So if you don't know, we were supposedly going to have the rapture September 22nd or September 23rd. And it sadly did not happen. But people took it seriously though. Like there were tons of people talking about it online. People who are selling their cars, quitting their jobs, like getting rid of all their belongings and stuff because they truly thought the rapture was going to happen. And I'm going to speak on that because because we can laugh a little bit, right? Like if you know anything about the Bible, that's very silly. It's kind of silly to believe the rapture is happening, and to respond to it in that way is also just kind of odd to me because it's not like we're going to leave anything on earth anyway. What do you need to sell things for? You don't need the money. You're not taking anything with you. Like, you know what I mean? You're not going to be like floating up in the sky and be like, wait, no, muffins, come with me. Hold my hand.
Take my hand.
Okay, take me with you, Jay.
I'll take you with me. Yay.
Like you're not taking anything with you. So selling things seems kind of pointless. But yeah, you had so many, but like you had actual Christians who were truly believing in this. So we can have our moment of like, tee-hee, that's kind of funny. And also being like, wait, hang on. We need to really talk about this as Christians. And this is where we need to be really pressing in on discernment, on knowing what the Bible says, because that's the great part. God didn't leave us hanging. He left us a whole book, and it's a really, really big book. And it tells us everything really we need to know how to live our life. And it tells us too about the end times because God knows us and he knows we're going to get all caught up in that stuff. And there are people who do obsess about the end times. There's a difference between wanting, trying to have more understanding about Revelations because it's a very interesting book, and then getting obsessed in it and obsessed of it and thinking you can figure it out. And that's another main part I want to talk about as, later, so we'll put a little pin in that, but about Christians falling into conspiracy. So first off, the Bible's pretty clear. No one knows the day or hour. Not even the angels, not even Jesus, only the Father. Even Jesus doesn't know when the end times are coming. So you in Nebraska or Omaha or wherever thinking that you got it figured out, my brother in Christ, you work at Walmart. You drive home in your Nissan Altima. I don't think you know when the end times are coming. And I don't mean that to be insulting. I mean that as in literally anyone who thinks that they can, I think is very silly. And anytime you see, and the Bible also speaks on the fact of there will be people who will be like, Jesus is here. Jesus is risen. We found his body. The end times are coming and I can tell you when. The Bible talks about those people and it says to not believe them. They're false prophets. They're deceivers. They have been deceived themselves. Like there are truly some people who I think are either reading way too much into their dreams or possibly in certain cases, and this is where you need to make sure you're praying for discernment, is possibly they got bad spirits attacking them and lying to them. Because that's the thing. Even demons know Christ's name. And they know how to say it. And they know how to use it. And because this whole thing came from a prophet, it's really a pastor in, I believe, South Africa or something, saying that the end times are coming. I'm sorry, no one knows the day nor the hour. He will come like a thief in the night. And we are to remain vigilant. The Bible's very clear on that. To make sure we're keeping that in mind, that Jesus will return. But it also speaks on the fact that we are supposed to be tending to the house we are in. He describes it as if you're a servant and your master leaves and he puts you in charge of the house, you need to make sure you are caring for the other servants, caring for the house, taking care of everything, because you don't know when the master's coming back. You're not supposed to be the servant who treats everyone horribly, blows all of his money, is partying and whatever, because you don't know when the master's coming back. And when he does, and he finds what you did, he's cutting you into pieces. We still have a job to do. So we are to remain vigilant and understanding of Jesus is coming and we don't know when, but also understanding we still have a job to do, and our job is to spread the gospel and to be salt and light. And I think when a lot of people get this like doomsday rapture approach, they isolate themselves and pull away when we're supposed to be spreading the gospel and the word. We're not supposed to be hiding ourselves under a basket or under a bed. We are the light. We're to put ourselves out in a place where we can shine on the most people possible. And I think that's the problem, is a lot of people, when they get obsessed with the rapture and whatnot, which I don't even, the way people view the rapture, honestly, and like the floating up into heaven dramatically like that is what's the word? I'm pregnancy braining it. Dispensationalist bull. It just is. There's no reason to believe that we're going to just float up into heaven like the freaking book series Lost, okay? That's fiction. That's fiction. The Lost series is not really super biblically based. Shocker, I know. We don't have the specifics of how that stuff is going to turn out. But again, we have this so many evangelical Christians have that view of it because that's just kind of what they've been told. And again, this is where you need to make sure you're having solid doctrine and you can speak with full understanding and confidence, not because some dude told you, but because the Bible told you. And you understand the Bible, and you've studied the Bible and learned about the Bible, and you have a pastor who can preach strong doctrine from the Bible to help you further understand. And taking the pen out now, I want to speak on conspiracy and Christians falling into conspiracy, because I swear, this is literally my life verse. We are not called to a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and of a sound mind. And the part I want to really harp on is the sound mind part, because I do want to talk a little bit about Candace Owens. And Candace counts. She's Catholic, but she counts. And if you don't know, Candace Owens is a content creator online. She's conservative. She has quite the reputation in the conservative movement because she was a part of the Daily Wire and then had a messy falling out. I think about 2 or so years ago, or maybe it was a year. No, it was about 2 years ago because it was all around the Israel stuff. She had a public falling out with Ben Shapiro on Twitter, who is one of the people who runs the Daily Wire. And so she started doing her thing. She started doing her content independently. And she speaks a lot about, she's very like, I'm going to get the dirt on things. And I have a theory about this. Like, if you don't know right now, it's like, she's literally, I think, in a lawsuit with France, the president of France, because she believes that the president of France's wife is a man, like a transgender man, and all of that wild stuff. And she also talks a lot about about pop culture and whatnot, but she speaks plenty about politics. And I honestly think her strong suit is not politics, because I think the problem is she is very prone to conspiracy. And if you don't know, she was a part, though, of TPUSA for a very long time. And so she was very, very good friends with Charlie for a very long time. They were very close. And so obviously she lost a dear friend in an awful way. And she's coping in the way I would only assume Candace Owens would cope and grieve, which is questioning everything. She questions everything. And don't get me wrong, it's good to question things. I'm not saying everything the government says is 100% true and correct, because it's not. Most of the time it's not. But this is where we need to make sure we are having, again, discernment, having understanding. And I worry for people like Candace, who seem to have fallen into conspiracy after conspiracy after conspiracy, who speaks from emotion and not from actual facts. I think Allie Beth worded it in a fantastic way, where just asking random questions all the time and having these vague possible conclusions that you lead people to isn't helpful. And also, like, the constant allusions, she alluded to the fact that, as far as she knew, Charlie was about to convert to Catholicism. And then people were like close to him were like, no, he wasn't. He's also you can see him speak publicly about why he's not Catholic. And then she was like, oh, well, I never said he was becoming Catholic. Candace be so for real right now. And then she also speaks on, oh, well, she spoke, she is not a fan of Israel. That's the whole reason why she got into the whole thing with Ben a couple years ago. Not a fan. Some people believe what she says is possibly anti-Semitic. She's She doesn't hold a candle to Milo Yiannopoulos in that sense, though. Holy crap. Go to his Twitter and you'll see within 5 minutes what I mean when I say that. But she alluded, I mean, she can say that she didn't, but really she did, to the conspiracy theory that possibly Israel had something to do with the death of Charlie Kirk. And and ask yourself this, was that helpful? Was that actually factual? Is there actual facts and evidence we can point to of Israel doing that? Because all I see is someone going, oh, what about this? Oh, there's this possibility. And we have these questions and this and this and this. Girl, get a grip. Get back down to earth. I'm sorry your husband is not doing his job and putting that loving hand on your shoulder and telling you to take a break. She has not taken a break since Charlie Kirk died. Like, genuinely. I haven't seen a time where she's gotten offline, where she's paused, where she has just taken a moment to process and properly grieve. And she's doing everything in the most unhealthy way possible of just constantly inviting in conspiracy. And that's not what we're called to do as Christians. We're just not. Asking random vague questions to promote chaos and to plant constant seeds of doubt is ridiculous and unhelpful. And I'm not saying that there aren't some things with the Charlie Kirk assassination that are kind of odd. No one is saying that. Anyone who trusts the government 100%, I think you're silly, regardless of who's the president and whoever his cabinet is and whatever. Asking questions is fine. Making sure that we are being wary of what we are being told, that we are looking into it ourselves, is good. But truly ask yourself, is what she's saying helpful? Does she actually have evidence to back it up? Or is she just constantly asking these open-ended questions that have vague conclusions, acting like she knows what she's talking about? It's just so frustrating to see, because how is that helpful? How is that helping the investigation? And also, yeah, the government's not telling us everything right now. Do you know why? It's because there's an active, ongoing investigation. I don't know if you're aware, he was murdered almost a month ago. And that's not the kind of thing that they're going to be able to wrap up in a few weeks. And no, Candace, the government isn't going to tell you everything, because guess what? You're not special. You're not the special little princess who they're going to give all of this information to. They have an active, ongoing investigation. Let them investigate. Let's see what else they come up with, and what will not come up with, but what else they're going to find, and what they're going to tell us about in the moment, and what are some things we're going to have to wait on. I would hope the government doesn't just tell us everything, because they have a job to do, and that's charge this person and figure out the solution. And also, in my opinion, charge the other people who are most likely extremely clearly involved in it. And I say that by the Discord group. There's no way the Discord group didn't know and didn't have a hand in it. There's no way his boyfriend didn't know what was going on and didn't have a hand in it. But to just constantly just make chaos and cause problems, because that's all it's done, is create chaos and cause problems. It's not helped the investigation. It's not helped people understand what's happening more. And it's also just, frankly, brought on stress for people who are involved in the investigation because their friend died in front of them. And they worked for him and they witnessed what happened. So yeah, it's just so frustrating to see a Christian doing that. Someone who's supposed to have discernment and mindfulness and be going to the Lord first, not the internet. Because honestly, that's what it seems like has happened. And when you go to the internet first and your feelings first and not God first, then you are making decisions and accusations and comments based on nothing but emotion. No evidence, no actual facts, no real logic behind what you're saying, but just, isn't this interesting? And, oh, I'm just asking questions. Yeah, well, maybe you need to stop. Because the kind of questions you're asking aren't actually ones where you're like, okay, they're telling us this, but then when I see the evidence and stuff, it doesn't seem to be pointing. That's not really what she's doing. So make sure that when you watch the content creators, that they aren't just inviting conspiracy for no reason. Make sure we're being mindful of that. And again, the whole thing I want to drive with the Rapture talk and then what's happening with Candace is making sure that you're not falling to conspiracy in general. Don't get swayed by man. Man will lead you astray every single time because it's the blind leading the blind. But before you do anything, take a breath. What does the Bible have to say on it? Pray on it. Sit on it. Don't be the first one to react. Don't be the first one to speak and think you have all the knowledge. Sometimes it's wise to wait and hold your tongue. You read Proverbs, it talks a lot about how essentially the fools are the ones who keep talking and the wise are the ones who know when to shut up. I'm not always great at that. I know for a fact I'm not. I'm not going to be calling out someone else's spec when I know I got that log in my eye too. That's something we all got to be working on. But when you're a public figure and you have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people listening to you, and you're a Christian, you have a responsibility to be discerning, to take your time, to be grounded in what you're saying and not swayed by your emotion, which her feeling grief is absolutely understandable. I'm not saying she can't grieve him, but the way she's grieving him is not healthy and it's not helpful. So again, we need to make sure we're not leading with emotion. We're not being swayed by man, but we are staying grounded in our foundation, which is God above all else. So again, I had a couple different things I want to talk about. Just kind of bam through it. I think I did a all right job at that. And we'll see what happens in the next week for me to talk about. I know I didn't really touch on the government shutdown. Number one, I kind of forgot. I have pregnancy brain now. Me remembering things, even when I write them down, is hard. But also there's not much for me to really say about it. So we'll see next time if I record if the government will be shut down anymore or not. But not affecting me at all, so whatever. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Any questions, comments, criticisms, concerns, whatever, let me know down below. Please be normal about it, though. Don't be one of those unhinged weirdos, if you wouldn't mind. And again, like, comment, subscribe. You can find us on pretty much any platform ever, Christ in ME. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next time.